Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. And for today's video, I'm just gonna go over the books that I've read over the past month and a half-ish. This includes all of October, and then it's November 20th today. So that's basically pretty much all of November. I can maybe get one more book in if I decide that I want to, but that's pretty much all I'm going to get. And so that means I've read a total of, I've got 4 books here over the past month and a half, which is a bit lower than my typical reading that I do, but I've been in a little bit of a slump in the sense that I just haven't felt like spending my free time reading as much as I normally do. And part of the problem is I think I spend too much time watching YouTube videos, and I really should cut that down because I don't really watch much else. I don't watch very much in terms of streaming. Going a little bit of a tangent here, but basically what the past couple weeks have been focused on is reading things that I know I will love to get out of that slump-ish. So these are all going to be some form of mystery thriller, which is my go-to genre if I just want to read for pure fun, for pure pleasure. I have some nonfiction books that I want to get to that I hadn't gotten to yet, and I still hope to get to soon, but maybe when I've kind of rebuilt the reading habit on a very consistent basis. So that'll be the goal. With that said, though, of the books that I read, I really had fun with pretty much all of them, so it worked, and I've kind of reestablished the reading before bedtime habit again, which is what I was going for. So the first book that I want to talk about here is a book by Steve Cavanagh, Kill for Me, Kill for You. Now, I only discovered this author because a bunch of people commented that I should read his books in a video I made about a mystery thriller series. And I had read his book before. I just hadn't picked the author up in a while, but I saw this at Barnes & Noble and I decided to go for it. And it didn't disappoint. So I will say, Kill for Me, Kill for You, the title pretty much summarizes what's happening in the first half of the book. So it centers on these 2 women, and they both had something really tragic happen to them, but then they know who the perpetrator is, or they know who the perpetrator is, but the perpetrator hasn't been brought to justice. And so they've made this pact where they're like, well, I'll kill this person for you if you kill this person for me, because we have no connection to the other person, and then we can have ourselves a strong alibi so the police can't come looking for us when we would be the prime suspect, basically, if the person were to die. Now, seeing as this is a thriller, that's pretty much all I can give away without getting into massive spoilers, which I would not want to do for this book. But I will quickly talk about what I loved about it. And so first, the twists. There were some massive twists. The first half of the book, like I said, pretty much follows the premise, but when the first twist gets revealed, it just becomes this wild ride where there's a couple of twists between the first and then the end of the book. And there are 2 separate storylines that are going on through most of the book, but then eventually it gets revealed how they connect, and that connection is very well done. And probably the greatest I guess impact I felt from this book is you get to the end and I truly did not know who I could say was the good guy and who was the bad guy. And I don't know, I was conflicted between whether I felt sorry for the characters or if they got what they deserved. And I hadn't had a book do that in a really long time. So I was just confused. And not about the story, but about how to feel about the characters themselves. And I think that was very, very well done. And for that reason, I got to give this 5 stars. It was definitely worth the read, even though it didn't feel like it was going to be for maybe the first half of the book. And I always like to see what other people say. And I remember reading some reviews and someone gave it 4 stars because they're like, this is not rereadable. And that is true. You probably couldn't reread this, but I feel like that's true of most of the thriller genre. Once you know the twist, you really can't reread the books. For me, that's not a big deal because I don't reread books that often anyway. But if that's a big deal for you, then yeah, this is not rereadable at all, unless you have a short memory. All right, now the next book I want to talk about is called The Hunter by Tana French. And this book is interesting because it is a mystery, but it's written and reads kind of like literary fiction. So it is this weird combination of literary fiction and mystery, and it's very well done. I'm going to be honest, I only picked this up because the dust jacket is this bright, beautiful orange color, and it just looks good. It's a good looking book. And also, I mean, I checked the reviews and it had pretty high ratings, and anything over 4 stars, I'm like, I probably will like it. And I did like it. So I'm glad I picked it up, even though maybe not for the right reasons at first. All right, so this book is set in Ardna Kelty, I think I said that right, Ireland. So the entire book set in Ireland, and it's set during like a really hot, intense summer where people's they're under a lot of pressure from both like the hot temperature and also a lot of them are farmers, so they're struggling because of what the heat is doing to their crops. But there's a couple main characters here. So the first main character is Cal, and he's a retired Chicago PD detective that moved to Ireland searching for, I guess, peace in his retirement. And he has taken under his wing Trey, who is, that's short for like Teresa. So she is a teenage girl and her father has gone missing. So Cal is kind of like a pseudo father for her. And they both work on carpentry projects together for the townspeople. And then eventually Trey's dad comes back into town. He had disappeared for like a number of the years. And then he shows back up as if nothing has really changed. And he brings with him a businessman who is on a mission to find gold. So it's like a gold rush story. But eventually someone dies, and that's when it turns into a mystery because the police get involved and they're trying to figure out who the killer is. But this being like a small town, the townspeople kind of pretty much impede the entire police investigation in the way only small towns can. And that's the other really fun part about this book is just the small town dynamics that exist within here. And then Cal being someone who was American and then moved to Ireland is like an outsider in this entire book. Like I said, I actually really enjoyed this book. I also listened to the audiobook, which was really useful because there are a lot of Irish words in here, and I don't know any Irish words, like truly none at all. So I got to listen to how they're actually said. And funny enough, I have a coworker who's Irish, and so I talked to her, and she's like, "Yeah, those are real words," which makes sense. I mean, the author is from Ireland herself, so yeah. It is a little bit long, so it's sitting at a little bit over 450 pages, but overall I'd give this about 4 stars. And if you see it and you want to pick it up, I would recommend it. I think it was worth the read. All right, now the next book I have here is Flashpoint, which is by Catherine Coulter. Now, this book is kind of like a return to an old friend, if you could describe it that way for me, because this is book 27 in a series. So it's a long running series. And I read this series, I think I was in college when I first picked it up, and I had read a significant chunk of the early part of the series. And then I guess it just fell off my radar at some point. So I don't think I've picked up a book in this series for probably about a decade. So this is like a return to some old friends in a way. So it was very nostalgic to get back to the characters. So speaking of it being a series, the main detectives, or they're FBI agents, so Agent Sherlock and Agent Savage, they're a married couple, and all of the novels in the series basically follow them and the cases that they work on. And then for this one, the primary sort of protectant, I guess, was Elizabeth, and she had had several attempts taken or on her life, and she was in England, but then traveled to Washington, D.C. so she could work with Sherlock and Savage while the British police were trying to figure out who was trying to kill her and why. There's actually 2 storylines though, because there's a second storyline that follows a young kid who has gone to live with his uncle and has made a new friend who believes in he's got these supernatural abilities to be able to like tell or see things that are going to happen that haven't happened yet. And he finally starts to feel like he fits in because of this. And then he gets in contact with Savage because Savage also has these abilities. And so those 2 stories aren't super related. I mean, their only relationship is that they both involve Savage. And overall, I would say, I mean, I enjoyed the book because, again, it was sort of a nostalgic return for me. But I don't think there's anything super special here. But it was an enjoyable read. I would say this is maybe 3.5 to 4 stars. And then the final book that I read is going to be Dirty 30 by Janet Evanovich. So I think this is a pretty popular series, although I had never heard of it. It's the Stephanie Plum series, and this is book 30 in the series. So I'm picking up from book 30. I had never read any of the other books in the series, which is kind of interesting. I just found this at half price books, and I saw that it had pretty high reviews, so that's the reason I picked it up. After having read this, I would say that this is what I would imagine a good cozy mystery to be. Like, I've read cozy mysteries in the past, but I just didn't enjoy them. I think it's a really good mix of the mystery, and it's not super like mystery, and it's definitely not a thriller. But there's a lot of comedy in here, from the characters for the most part, that I really like. This was just entertaining, and the best way I can think of to describe it is that it's like a sitcom in a mystery novel. So if you like sitcoms, I think that you would enjoy this book because it is basically that in book form. So Stephanie Plum, she is a bounty hunter in Trenton, New Jersey. So she's basically trying to get people who are out on a bail, I think it is, to come to the courthouse because they missed an appointment and reschedule their appointments. But she's not super competent at her job. And then she's surrounded by people like her partner, who is also a little bit, just a little bit out there. She's very funny. But in this book, she thinks that there's like a Sasquatch coming into her bedroom to watch her sleep at night. There's just a lot of ridiculousness in this book. And she's hunting someone that tried to rob a jewelry store and then left and then immediately dropped the bag of diamonds and then ran away. So basically, it's just a lot of incompetent people, but it all comes together really well, and it makes for a really funny read. It's very much the classic tale of someone who is struggling, but you can see that they're trying and you want to root for them. Overall, I give this about 4 stars just because I really did enjoy it, and I think I will pick up more of the books in the series. I don't know if I'll go back, but I think that there are still more being released, so I may pick up more of those. All right, that is pretty much it. Those are all of my recent reads over the past month and a half or so. I am looking forward to reading a little bit more in December, although, so one of the most anticipated reads of this year, which is the newest Stormlight Archive book, is going to get released on December 6th. And I already have that pre-ordered, and it's supposed to be delivered on release day. And that book is going to be at least 1,000 pages. I don't know the exact page count off the top of my head, but that's going to take up a good chunk of my reading, but I'm super excited for it. I've been waiting a long time for this release. And it's really going to test my reading stamina because I don't think I've read a book that long in a really, really long time. Maybe I'll just like ride that wave and pick another really long book next month as well, because I've got a couple, like Stephen King's 11/22/63. I've never read that book, and it's got nothing but excellent reviews. And that and one other book that I also am thinking about that I don't have in my possession yet that I might pick up. With that said, I hope you guys have also had some pretty good reads over the past couple months. You can definitely let me know about it in the comment section. If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.